Welcome back, Cargo Cultures here. I'm going to be covering the Cruciform UAPs from the apparent recent mass leak that the photos were given to the Strange Mysteries YouTube channel. And so these cruciforms, I've created two variants. So there's one that's just a pole, and there's one that's just a spike. All of these I've also kept a sort of y-axis spike as well. Um, just because on this first image here, there is a sort of y-axis spike. Now, if there doesn't appear to be a y-axis spike, then just disregard it. But I believe that it's potentially there for some of these images. It's just been foreshortened, um, and it's far enough away that it kind of like just dissolves the actual form. So I'm just going to leave it there, but otherwise you can ignore that middle spike. So just covering this first image here. Um, so all of these shapes here are perfectly symmetrical. Um, so just keep that as a head up. There's also this sort of lip going on here for one of these photos. So you can see in this image here that it doesn't seem like two perfect poles, but sort of like a slightly curved edge on some of these things. So it seems like a similar to how you would think of like an intersecting pipe. Um, yeah, four-way intersection of a pipe. So let's jump into this one first. Go into top-down view. You also know that they both go in separate ways. And that's just because if you grab all these images from top-down, even though that they're angled in different directions, they match up silhouette-wise. And that's just how perspective works when you're working with perfectly symmetrical shapes. So if I drag this over here, lines up, see that? Lines up as well as I can. And if I grab this one here, also lines up. So that tells us that the image is of a photo of an object that is perfectly symmetrical if it's going to be foreshortening the way it does. Now, I'm going to show you the margin of error that will happen if you're drawing this or AIing this or whatever. So if I grab this lower poly rendition and just move it like a tiny bit on both sides here. I'm fairly certain even if just one of these sides are wrong, this whole thing is just impossible. So if I align this up here, there's no way that you're going to get this sort of edge here now um, and fit this puzzle piece in. So this is like, so you'd think that like, okay, maybe I could rotate it so it's going downwards so it elongates into the camera more. So let's try that. Nope, now it still doesn't reach. So this thing, the margin of error, it's not it's so small that if you make this mistake of it not being a symmetrical object, it's not going to foreshorten correctly. So let's have a look at the other images. Now that that's being represented. Also, all these images are I've colored these as blood red or dark blood red. Within the unshown picture of one of the cruciforms, um, it was stated that it looks black. I'm not entirely sure if I can call it black. It could still be red, but because just how the camera is sort of picking it up, it could make the red into black, or the dark red into black. So there's that possibility. Also, I know that blue light makes red objects look um, black, but the sunlight itself is white. So there, I don't know if light bleed would make it into a black object, but just food for thought. I thought I'd just say that. But I'm just going on the Nuremberg report, and the colors don't matter so much, but I've colored these red, um, until we know other information other than just, um, uh, yeah, until we know more, I guess. Yeah, so jumping into this next photo here, just going to cover over this one. So this isn't absolutely perfect because I think that the spikes could be thinning down, but these things come in shapes and sizes, different section sizes. But you can see already that the foreshortening here matches up with the gradients of how these things are going. So once again, a representation of good foreshortening, and the margin of error is very small. This spike, I reckon it could be shorter, and then it would foreshorten correctly, but just pay attention to these limbs, and they stop at the gradient. So another representation of correct foreshortening. So if we jump into this next image, this one's just kind of a front onwards, so um, don't really know. Like, I guess you could spoof this technically, but at the very least, these top-down sections are correctly foreshortened once again. Um, so that's a very hard thing to do to get absolutely perfect when you're generating an image and drawing an image as well. You have to be very consistently good at, at doing this without margin of error. Otherwise, the puzzle pieces don't fit. All right, so the rest of these images, they are smaller or not as great quality, but we'll cover them anyway. So once again, we've got two things going at different angles, but they both look like the same object from a top-down perspective. So yeah, that one lines up. Yep. And then this one lines up as well. And this is apparently chasing like a sort of orb class UAP. All right, so jump on to the next image as well now. Now this one is one that is blurred. So there is that issue. But I tried my best to match up the sections where the gradients seem to end. And if it is the case, then it seems to be foreshortening correctly. Once again, we can't absolutely know for sure, but there's a like it covers very similar to the area of foreshortening that would occur realistically. So um, it's adding to the pile, but not as well as the other ones do. This all class is apparently chasing them. This by the notes of the apparent leaker, they're talking about different factions and stuff like that, and this could be some sort of aerial conflict going on. Okay, so taking the where is it at? Those tiny crosses. Let's just go back a bit. So taking the tiny crosses that were in this image, I just wanted to see um, if they were the same tiny crosses. And it's so far away that you can't really tell that even if it was, but it does match up. So I thought I'd point that out. But it's like, I don't know, like 200 meters might look like the same object, something like for like 275 meters. So I think regardless, it's not much can be learned from that. It just happened to be correctly angled. Um, for both of these are quite similar in angle. So just some food for thought for that one as well. This one has to be slightly increased. I don't think that's anything conclusive that can be said out of it though, because there's so many degrees in a wheel that can happen, and um, there's a lot of limbs here. So once again, if you're spinning a roulette wheel, maybe this can happen as well. But yeah, just something I spotted. And so let's talk about some of the more some of the other details within this image, of these multiple images. Um, so they're having the forethought of knowing to, as you get closer to the center of a mass that is potentially in motion, such as like a helicopter blade, or maybe this thing sort of the camera itself is rotating around this thing, but basically the the helicopter blades they dissipate around the edges, and the closer you get to the form, the more solid it looks as well. And it also seems to be like bleeding out in terms of how like potentially how a helicopter blade would appear on or just like just moving thinning objects in general, how they would appear on a camera if you're trying to take it. So yeah, this one's a nice still image. Um, And the reason I made both poles and spikes is because this one seems very clear that it's not spiked. So I went ahead and made this one to a pole. It does also have the spike on the y-axis, but I believe it's foreshortened. It could potentially be foreshortened. Um, then I don't know if there might be gradient sections that might indicate a potential spike coming up from the y-axis, but I decided to just leave it there and keep the model consistent anyway. Just to see if it could pass through over with all of the same models essentially. So this one is the same as well, the sort of solid form in the middle that sort of gradients out. Just a lot of, forethought and extra thought if they're gonna generate or art or CGI this thing. It's a bit of a quite a few hurdles, I guess. Then to come up with and remember some of these things, especially for the consistency of Earth. A lot of these images, you have to remember that as well. There's a lot of very specific things going on. This one, not much to say about this one, so I'll just keep moving on actually. And then this one as well, yeah, you've got a foreshortened form. Let's grab this thing here. So this one's actually pretty interesting because this foreshortened form on here and here, um, like this longer form is more solid, I guess you could call it, in terms of the amount of pixels that show on the screen. Um, and the further you get away, it's doing sort of um, what is the sort of bleeding effect of gradient, I guess, going on here. And then it's quite potentially realistic that these top things are also gradienting in the way that they do because they're so thin. Um, so, but uh, I don't know about 100% about these statements, but I thought it's just a lot of forethought stuff going on here that probably needs to be inspected a bit more. So yeah, but once again, the foreshortening seems to match up. Um, there's no lighting potentially. I mean, this little lighting is happening on the orb here, but that's about it. Um, can't really determine this, and a lot of these might be in infrared, and I don't know exactly about that, but I'm going to talk about that at the end since I encountered an interesting post that was also posted on the Strange Mysteries YouTube channel. All right, so this one as well. Um, yeah, solid form in the middle, sort of dissipates as well. This one's just straight up solid form with no dissipation, so that's pretty interesting. Okay, so let's talk about these images in the broader context of everything. So if I load up the chandelier image, let me go find that I did. So the chandelier image analysis. Let's see if I can find that. There it is. Okay. Sorry, this bit scuffed, but whatever. So the lighting's correctly, the foreshortening's correctly. Um, this is once again a symmetrical form that has been correctly foreshortened in three-dimensional space. It's also getting lit correctly. Um, there's a lot going on here. So yep, just quick recap of that. Then if I find the next image, which would be the petal form UAP, let's find it. I guess I'll just load up this one. Yeah, so this petal form UAP, um, the whole sort of like saying, that's a ceiling fan or whatever. So this thing is actually foreshortened correctly as well. Um, and you have to refer back to the previous video. But also, I think I might need to make an updated analysis of this, or just a short one maybe, where a lot of these petals align with this thing, except for here, which means that it's likely not a 72-degree perfect rotation of an object, which, fans are. Um, Fans are perfect radial symmetry, like a 5-point fan. Um, you don't have anything that goes like, it's like a shorter on one end and then like out on the other ends. And refer back to the previous video if for a lot of the specifics in this thing, but yeah, it's there's too much foreshortening and too much lining up here. This thing is obviously angled in one way as well, like this dot is not directly in the center, and you can see this sort of like formation over a mesh in the middle. Yeah. Okay, and then last one, which is the flying cross. Once again, perfectly symmetric. So the previous one I should just mention, the fanned UAP or the pedal form UAP. It's likely symmetrical perfectly down the center and then mirrored, so horizontal symmetry, not radial symmetry. Yeah, and then let's get that out again. The flying cross one. This is a perfectly symmetrical rendition of it, and it matched up correctly with foreshortening. This is a very long video that I made on it, but the lighting's also seemingly correct. There's obviously some sort of this could be pure coincidence, but it cuts into quarters, at least from a very far angle. It seems to cut into corners. Also, you can see there's mirroring of details if you change the lighting of the image as well. So that signifies that these details are mirrored over to the other side, basically. Yeah, so all of these things together, let's break this down into context. So all of these images so far have represented objects that I have been able to recreate in a 3D rendition that have all been showing angles of or some sort of symmetry, right? So I model this thing, it's in symmetry. Then when I'm making it so that the models are aligned correctly with the camera, let's get that example out again. So when I'm modeling these things that are perfectly symmetrical, modeling them with the camera, they line up perfectly like a puzzle piece. And there's those rooms for errors that I showed you. It happens throughout some of the other images as well. Like you have to really get this thing correctly. And if it's not a perfectly symmetrical thing, then it won't fit into the puzzle piece. So there's that. So at least all these images are representing something that is perfectly symmetrical in one angle that is foreshortened correctly. Now we also have correct lighting in what's it? This one, which would be an absolute headache to be able to do this as a drawn image for sure. And then like foreshortening on this is crazy as well. So yeah, so foreshortening this is crazy that they managed to pull it off as well. Shadow seeming to be correct as well. Yeah, and then foreshortening once again on this thing is correct as well. So just in the broad context of everything, this leaves CGI taken of a photo taken of something, and then that they modeled in tangible space, like they can touch it and they modeled it, and then they lit it correctly. All this is real. Now, let's not forget even more context on this thing. So I've broken down all of these things and represented them in 3D and recreated them and lit them correctly, lit them according to the reference, and the reference matched the actual rendition that would happen if you're only having a 1-point light system. Some of these don't have lights, like the pedalform UAP, because I think this could be in some sort of different camera mode, which is picking up maybe like infrared or heat, or not entirely sure. But um, I just wanted to bring attention to the post that occurred here as well. So in the context of everything else, and I was going to jump into this, but it seems like someone um, 11 days ago made a little bit of like I guess um, took a bit of an initiative as well, thankfully. So there seems to be matching ups of the radicals in the middle to let's see if I can find it. Um, Reticles, yeah. So the reticles actually exist in terms of um, drone footage that exists online. Now, I won't load these up just in case, but feel free to have a look at this post by uh, KCIMC. And there's just a lot of breakdown going on here where, like, okay, so let's say this was a CGI artist. Okay, so the percentile of being an artist is like 1.9% in America at least. So we'll go in that. But CGI artist is quite small as well. And they also have to think about, okay, they also are willing to fuck around and um, throw their morality out the window and blur the lines between reality and use art as a destructive weapon where they're representing things in and saying it's real. So there's there's that as well. Okay, so it's a very specific type of person going on here. Okay, and on top of that, their understanding of military stuff to to represent it in 3D is quite impressive. It also seems like they would be creating things and reticles based on pre-existing um, drone military footage reticles. Um, so there's that as well. Some of them we don't know yet. So we, um, but if other people can find out these reticles as well, we're slowly moving it from, the fakery to the reality. So these are the next steps that I believe need to happen. But it's bordering within very high tier, really impressive fakery. Um, because there's so much going on here. Um, yeah, mathematically correct objects, perfectly foreshortened, lit using correct reticles. Um, with also it's saying like there's you can see that there's tiers on the top of the image. Um, One of the images you can have a look at, I think it's the sort of blurry um, boomerang shaped one. Yeah, the hazy boomerang shaped one. Um, I think this is the image. Okay, no, it's not. But have a look at Strange Mysteries YouTube channel. He covered this specifically. But yeah. Um, what else is there? There's just a lot going on. Also with the text, sorry, the email going on, they're also familiar with. Okay, so this is delving outside of the realms of art. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I should do this, but I think it's good to give broader context. Like this person knows their terminology. They also know CGI. Let's say if they're a fake. Okay, so they also know CGI. Also using reticles and all the other things. It's there's so much going on. They're also like behaving really correctly, like behaving really in a specific way that I don't know if any of like another CGI artist would lob this hard. Um, yeah, so if you were to build a character profile of this person, there'd be a good CGI artist, like very good at faking this stuff. They've really done their research. They also really know about military technology, um, and they've thrown their moralities out the window. And they're also really good at LARPing. Um, and just a lot of other weird behavior, like specific behavior stuff that seems like, uh, if I was to say it, they genuinely seem busy at some points as well. Like the shit's going down in the background, something, or they're just like busy with family matters or whatever. But um, um, that last one's a bit loose. But just all the things just collectively together. What's the percentage that a person is that way? Where they're a malevolent force and they decided to fuck around and use their talents for absolute evil, I guess, or just evil, just evil to mass sort of like um, confuse everyone. So at the very least now, we're getting to the point where it's a seesaw in terms of like which way they could go. Previously, I reckon we could without doing, or previously without people doing analysis, that they were slapping all sorts of horrible things towards this guy. Um, but I'm leaning towards that. This thing, it's it's a seesaw for me right now, still. But there's so much representative sort of um, information in terms of what I did, and now what this old thing did as well. That it makes me question if this is legit. So I think that's gonna be the video. I'm gonna release one other thing, and I just wanted to give this directly to uh the leaker. So yeah, let's do that. All right, so this is a gift that I wanted to give to you because you've been incredibly unfairly treated by the community. Uh, just completely thrown under the bus. No form of analysis was even given before people were forming their opinions, and even when attempts were to, I've tried to post things about this online, and I've just been, thrown under the bus as well. People have already made their mind up. But it seems like we're slowly getting past that point where those that chose to be analytical and pick this thing apart before forming any sort of judgment are slowly representing their work. And what is going on in these images are too compelling that I think that we're leaning towards whether they're legit or CGI still. Now, if you're a CGI artist, this present is not for you. But on the off chance that you're legit, and my gut feeling potentially says that it's plausible, um, just based on all this sort of picking apart that I've been doing, you deserve a serious apology by everyone. Um, and then in terms of just how they responded to how you reacted, it's like you're human, of course. Like what they're gonna say all this stuff, and then you're not gonna take offense. So whatever, just ignore that stuff. And yeah, hopefully you like this thing. Hopefully my words are better sort of represented within this art itself. And if you ever come around again, um, it will be great because these images are so high quality in terms of just informational stuff. I mean, image wise, you could say that I would like them to be high quality. The last few ones that were taken out, they were pretty good. But there's a lot going on here that it's hard for anyone now, hopefully, to just say fake, lies, LARPer, whatever, throwing all these sort of stuff. It's not fair. And I fundamentally disagree with it. So yeah, um, that's about it. If anyone, so just everyone else, if you want any of these models, feel free to view them. Feel free to download them. That's it. See you guys later.